She's finally here, the girl we all were waiting for. Unless you were hoping for Night Rose. Then I will see you in 2 weeks.
Stand up! Vanguard!
Hey Cardfighters, welcome back to another Cardfight update, and today we've got the reveal of the new Silver Thorn cards with, of course, their boss unit, the brand new Silver Thorn Dragon Empress, Venus Luquier. With these reveals for Silver Thorns, or for Pale Moon, we also got some extra Zero news and some very exciting announcements for some information we're going to get next week. But before we're gonna dive into that, let's take a look at what's gonna happen to Vanguard Zero, which a lot of people have been asking for and waiting for quite a long time. Because with the end of Limit Break era in Japan, the question arises, where were Mega Colony, Tachikaze, and Nubatama? Well, some of those questions are going to be answered very soon, because Bushiroad announced that this month they're going to have 2 clan events, and the first clan event that's going to happen basically, I believe, tomorrow or very soon, is the clan event for Tachikaze. So yes, Tachikaze is finally being introduced in Vanguard Zero, although they were already in the game code, because if you played throughout the story mode, then you probably encountered Tachikaze a couple of times. Now, the other clan event that's scheduled later this month is gonna be, of course, of this clan. And they're trying to be somewhat mysterious, but everybody knows that this is Mega Conley, and this is the user with the annoying phrase, Kokake! For every time that he attacks. So yeah, if you were anticipating for Mega Conley and Tachikaze to be introduced in Vanguard Zero, then they're gonna be introduced in the Japanese version this month, and for us international or the English version, it's probably around 6 to 8 weeks then that we're going to get these clans. So it will still take a while, but at least we finally know that they're going to be included in the game, as this was long overdue. Now, with the Vanguard Zero news out of the way, let's dive straight into the card reveals that we've got for the official physical card game, as these new introductions for Silver Thorn and Pale Moons are quite interesting. As in today's live stream, we've got 3 new Silver Thorn cards, but there's one more Pale Moon high rarity triple R grade 2 that I want to talk about that was revealed this weekend that's actually quite impactful for the Harry deck for Pale Moon, as they revealed this weekend this grade 2 card dealer Jacqueline. And this card has the following skill: auto Vanguard the Vanguard Circle. When placed, cost counter +1, look at the 7 cards from the top of your deck, reveal up to a total of 2 Lure Pigeon Pop or cards with Magia Doll in their card names from among them, and put them into your hand and shuffle your deck. If you reveal 2 cards, put a card from your hand into the soul. So this card is the card that the Harry deck needed, as they needed some consistency tool to actually make the plays more consistent. And we've seen people speculating and trying to theorize with misdirection, as misdirection allows you to draw into multiple cards as well as setting up your soul and be a little bit more aggressive in the early game. Now, Jacqueline basically does what misdirection does, but in a bit different way, but also can be said is better, and some people might say it's worse. In my honest opinion, I find this card works better with the Harry deck than misdirection could ever attain to be. So this is an amazing support card, because this card allows you to search out all your Magia Dolls cards if you need them, and if you hit multiple cards, then you can immediately put one to soul, which set up your plays for next turn. And you're probably going to put a grade 2 in the soul, so you can keep the grade 1 in hand, which is higher shield value. Or you just put a grade 3 or something else in the soul that you don't need, so you have both of them in your hand, which then you can then guard with, because don't forget, these Magia Dolls, once you guard with them, they immediately move to the soul. But the other big thing about this card is that it also searches for the Lure Pigeon Pop, and so far we didn't have any searches for the pigeon, and it was quite crucial to make your plays as threatening as you want them to be. So the fact that this grade 2 also searches for the pigeon is big, is really big. And the fact that it's a Vanguard and Rearguard Circle skill is really nice, because it doesn't matter if you ride her or call to the Rearguard Circle, you will always get advantage. And if you ride into her, that's not a problem, because you fixed the right mistake here by putting another card of the Magia Dolls into the soul, so you still attain the same amount of Magia Dolls in your soul which you would attain by just normal riding the Magyadols themselves. So overall, this card is pretty good. It gives a lot of consistency to the deck, and it just allows you to play a full focus Magyadol deck that doesn't need to rely specifically on some older cards like Misdirection, and it also makes it easier to build a deck because everything is now accessible in this particular set, which is always nice, especially for newcomers. Now, with that Magyadol support card discussed, let's take a deep dive into the new Silver Thorn cards that were revealed today. And we're gonna start off with this Grade 1, Silver Thorn Handle Grip Linnea. And Linnea's ability is Auto Vanguard and Rearguard Circle. When it attacks or boosts, Soul Charge 1, and this unit gets power plus 5k until the end of turn. So it's an on attack or on booster that soul charges and gets a little bit power. It's nice. It's not super amazing, but it's nice. It sets up soul, and it can be a solid 13k attacker or booster, and because it's on Vanguard or Rearguard Circle, you don't have the problem of misriding, and because it's a Silver Thorn card, you probably want to ride them so you can set up your plays with Luquier. So that's actually pretty nice. But what's also nice about this particular Silver Thorn is that it's generic and it soul charges, which is actually pretty good because this allows you to just play it in any build, and it's a good beater as well as attacker. It sets up your soul, but not only that, because you now can just run this generic Silver Thorn card in any build, there is a potential that some other Silver Thorn cards can be splashed into other generic builds that might not be around the Silver Thorn engine themselves per se, but have some interaction with other particular Silver Thorn cards in your deck, because you can splash them in your engines. With the previous support wave of Silver Thorns, that wasn't really possible, but with something like this, that might actually be the case. Now, the other Silver Thorn card that we've got is this Grade 2 Silver Thorn Diva Sylvia, and her ability is Auto Vanguard and Rearguard Circle. When placed, costs counter plus 1. Choose up to 2 cards with Silver Thorn in their card names, not named Silver Thorn Diva Sylvia, from your soul and call them to the Rearguard Circle. So this card is a direct +2. You counter plus 1, call 2 Rearguard from the soul to the field, which is pretty good. And this can give you the Grade 1 you just read in the previous turn, and maybe some other cards you soul charge. This allows you to be very aggressive in the early game, because Silver Thorns tend to do nothing until you ride up to Grade 3. This card allows you to be a bit more aggressive. A huge thing about this particular card is that the condition is when placed, not when placed from hand. So this could come off with other skills that might call it from the soul. Luquier comes to mind, but as I explained with the Grade 1 that is super generic, these two cards can potentially be splashed in any other build and can be a generic plus engine or something that allows you to set things up, which could be really interesting. But in the Silver Thorn engine itself, this skill might look quite weird and not that good, because Luquier herself can call an entire field for 2 counterblasts. So what's the point of this card in a Silver Thorn deck? Well, this will interact mainly with the new Luquier, because the new Luquier works a little bit different than the previous one. Because the new Luquier is Silver Thorn Dragon Empress Venus Luquier, and she has the following skills: continuous Vanguard Circle. During your turn, if all of your front row circles have units, all of your front row units get power plus 5k. So this gives a passive 5k to the front row if you fulfill the condition. This is much better than the previous Luquier that gives 3k to the front row rear guards, not units. So this particular Luquier also gained the power of the 5k, but the old Luquier was on the resolve of an act ability. So if you switch units around or you do some multi-attacking, the new units don't get that extra 3k power. In this case, it does. So this is very similar to the old Golden Beast Tamer. So this already is a really good skill. But on top of that, we have Act on Vanguard Circle once per turn, costs counter plus 1, and discard a card from your hand, and call any number of cards with Silver Thorn in their card names from your soul to the front row Rearguard Circle. At the end of that turn, you have 4 or more Rearguards, and put all of your Rearguards into the soul and get an imaginary gift XL. So not only can this Luquier also call on board, it can also retract that board to get an extra XL marker. This is basically a combination of the old Luquier and Dorian, which is actually pretty good, because now you don't rely on a 2-card combo, as this particular card is that combo in one card. The only difference here is that you can only call to the front row, so your back row will be empty, and by putting everything in the soul, you don't necessarily get some extra draws, and you don't get the grade 3 from the soul to the hand, but you get an extra exile marker, which is similar to getting the grade 3 to your hand and then writing it next turn, as that will also acquire the exile marker. You only have maybe 2-3 cards mid the game that you don't get for drawing of Dorian. But the huge thing here is that this skill only costs 1 counterblast and not 2. So this is what I refer to with the grade 2 that interacts with the new Venus Luquier, because if you call the grade 2 via this skill, you can then resolve its skill to counterblast 1 and then call 2 boosters to the back row and then have a field set up. Now what's interesting about this particular Luquier is that it's much more aggressive than the previous one, as well as that it's much harder to counterplay against because you only require 1 counterblast to actually do your plays. Also, this Luquier will change the previous Luquier status in the deck, as the old Luquier was mainly your main right target, and that was the play you want to go, and could potentially be a rearguard unit, as it also can attain a 10k power on the rearguard. Now with this new Venus Luquier, the old Luquier becomes a backup right target as well as a rearguard beater, and that's probably the main source of value that the card's going to get, because it's a really good rearguard beater that can be 22k, and with the 5k power buff can be 27 or 32 and an Exile 2 marker, which are pretty good numbers you're hitting. And this card is of course your new main Vanguard unit. But what's also nice about this Venus Luquier, with the fact that her cost is only 1 counterblast, is that the older grade 1 card, Breathing Dragon, can now actually be useful and have a spot in the deck, because now you have ways to use the counterblast skill without screwing your main Luquier ability. But not only that, because the new Luquier's power is a continuous power buff, means defensive triggers will impact that combo way less, because now you can just attack with the column and put the unit into the soul and call out the previous older VR Luquier, and that will be on its own a 27k beater on a normal circle, which is actually pretty good, because that means even if you're up against a force deck, it still will hit over defensive triggers. So older cards can suddenly become a lot better. And as we've seen with the grade 2, this new Luquier deck or this new Silver Thorn deck can be much more aggressive, because you can just write the grade 2, use the skill to call out 2 more units, and if you ridden on top of the old triple R grade 1 Arena, there's a likely chance that you soul charge a couple of strong grade 2s, maybe your grade 3 VR Luquier, and you can then call them out on grade 2 and be very aggressive on your turn 2 plays, which the old Silver Thorn deck mainly didn't do, because you needed all your resources for your big counter plus 2 play, and you want to keep all your cards in soul so you can then shove them back into the soul with Dorian. And those were the new cards that we got for Pale Moon. Even though the Silver Thorn cards are pretty interesting and makes the deck a lot more aggressive than the previous counterpart was, I'm still a little bit disappointed that this Silver Thorn Luquier is basically the same as the old Luquier, but a little bit better and just an increase in value-wise than the old version was. So the deck mainly does the same trick and thing and riddle that it did like a year ago, and I hope that at least there was some variety or some change in game plan, or that they have maybe some more combo potential, but sadly they're probably gonna be the beatdown deck that they already were, and they're probably gonna stick with that game plan. If it works, it works. If it's strong, it's strong. I mean, I'm definitely going to get the cards. They look amazing, and Harry is also pretty awesome. And I think with Harry being the gimmick deck and Luquier just being a hard beatdown deck, Pale Moon has enough option to just do what they want, and the players have something to get their hands on that they actually really like and enjoy to play. Now, with that out of the way, let's go over the last major reveal or news announcement that we've got from Bushiroad, because Bushiroad announced that next week we're going to get a new ban list. And I'm not 100% sure, but I see from some sources that this is going to be a premium ban list. So does that mean that Bushiroad actually noticed and is listening, and they are announcing the ban and the eradication of Sazan? Well, that's only for them to know and for us to ask, as we will learn next week if Sazan actually is going to go to 0. And no, I'm not referring to the mobile game, I mean actually booted out of the premium format, and that premium players actually can enjoy a fun and healthy format before the set even comes out. Because if this ban list is what we hope it to be, then Zazen gets banned before the premium collection hits the English format. So that would be really interesting if Bushot is actually deciding to go with that route. But that's basically everything that we've got today. Let me know in the comments down below what you guys think of the new Pale Moon cards that we got for Harry, as well as Silver Thorn cards. Are you happy with Tachikaze as well as Mega Conley finally making their way to Vanguard Zero? And are you excited and hopeful for the ban list that we're going to get next week? As always, this video has been brought to you by our lovely Patreons over at patreon.com/VanguardInsider. You guys are amazing. If you do want to support the channel or everything that we're doing on the channel, then subscribing, hitting the bell button to be updated for future videos. And if you want to support us a bit more directly, you can go over to patreon.com/VanguardInsider and become a Patreon today. But with that said, I'm Mr. Time Leap. See you guys in the next one.